The Dallas Cowboys deciding not to re-sign Jourdan Lewis was the biggest mistake they made this offseason. We'll tell you why next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. And we are answering your Twitter questions today, and we got some really good ones. First one comes from Damon. He wants to know, what was the one move that the Cowboys made or didn't make this offseason you wish was different? For him, it was a Kenneth Murray trade. For me, Landon, it was the Jourdan Lewis decision not to re-sign Jourdan Lewis. I know that he got more money in free agency than maybe the Cowboys were anticipating. But think about how much better we would be feeling about the Cowboys defense and their secondary if you had Jourdan Lewis in the slot, Deron Bland's playing on the outside. You've got Kyrie Elam and Josh Butler and Kalen Carson and Savon Ravel trying to hold down that other spot until Trayvon Diggs gets back. I just think we'd be feeling so much different about this defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the spots where we do have the most kind of unanswered questions, you feel like you've got potential solutions in place, but it's just uncertain, and it's a key position that obviously is very much considered to be a starter, at this in this modern NFL where we see three cornerbacks on the field all the time. So I definitely think that I agree with the kind of tenor that you set, right? Like, I don't know if I would have been thrilled with the money, the Cowboys paying Jourdan Lewis that money that he got from Jacksonville. But as far as wanting to have the player back and how well it would fit into this current situation, I do think it makes a lot of sense. Outside of course, the fact that both of them would be constantly thrown out of practice every time George Pickens and Jourdan Lewis were practicing together.
Well,
but
Damon makes the point in his question that, hey, they spent $7 million on Kenneth Murray with his cap hit. Just imagine if they traded for another linebacker, they signed another linebacker, and they used that money to get Jourdan Lewis. Yes, linebacker would still be an issue, but man, you would have so many more options. And again, I think for the most part this offseason, the Cowboys did a lot of things that I really like. I thought for the most part, the draft was pretty good. The George Pickens trade gives them an explosive receiver. That's just the one move that I wouldn't be surprised if we look back in like week 5, week 6 and feel like, man, they should have just paid Jourdan Lewis what he was asking for.
I know. I mean, this question was honestly kind of difficult, right? Because it's hard to know what to regret at this point. I mean, I think a lot of this stuff, we still have to see it kind of play out a little bit. But the Jourdan Lewis thing to me is like the closest thing, simply because, it's clear that the Cowboys haven't got a rock solid solution there yet. They all, like I said, they have a couple of really good solutions, but it just isn't as clean as the Jourdan Lewis situation. We may get into the regular season and regret even saying that, right? Like maybe Jourdan Lewis fell off a cliff and isn't playing as
possible.
Well. Yeah. Or maybe Izzy McQuamu is incredible at the slot spot, or who knows, right? But I just think that as it stands right now, the Cowboys have unsettled business at the nickelback spot, and Jourdan Lewis is obviously one of the best nickels in the league.
Can I give you another one at least I've thought about? How much better would you be feeling about the run game right now if they just paid Rico Dowdle the money that Javonte Williams got in free agency, 1 year, $3 million? You draft Jaden Blue with the idea that they're probably going to draft a bigger back next year. But if they're going into the season with, let's say even they sign Miles Sanders, it's Rico Dowdle, Jaden Blue as the explosive back, Miles Sanders and Phil Maffa. Are you feeling better about the run game?
I think, that's interesting because when you asked the question, just to peel back the curtain, I was looking at free agent running backs to try to remind myself who was available up front at the start of free agency, because I do think that there's something to that idea that, like, even with the current situation, obviously you're trying to create a runway for these young players to get opportunities to play. But it would have been nice to just feel a little bit better about the in-house veterans that you've got. I think that they got the two guys that they got. I think they got at a good price, and I do feel like, especially Williams, who's now 2 years removed from that kind of nasty ACL that he had. I'm pretty sure it was an MCL as well, right?
Yeah, it was a multi-ligament injury. Yep.
Yeah, so I think there is some thought that maybe you're going to get something closer to rookie version of Javonte Williams, and maybe the thought is, hey, that guy might be as good as pick your top of the market running back. But I think there's something to the idea that Dowdle was a known commodity around here. Look, even though McCarthy's not here, I mean, Schottenheimer clearly had some familiarity with him, and you know what? Maybe that's some of the issue. Maybe Schottenheimer was not a fan of Dowdle, and that's part of the reason that they were trying more of a committee situation instead of kind of leaning towards him. So I think that you're right in the sense that I would have paid Dowdle that similar kind of money and brought him back and taken that chance as having him as the guy that would be the kind of veteran presence in the locker room. But I think that there's a chance that maybe Dowdle didn't view it that way, or maybe Dowdle wasn't willing to come back even on that same contract. For him, it was about maybe getting closer to home. He's from South Carolina, so maybe getting closer to North Carolina was, at a cheaper rate was worth it to him. Who knows? But I don't disagree. I think in general, not even just Dowdle, but I think the Cowboys probably, if they wanted to, could have spent a little bit more in the veteran running back market if they wanted to just kind of get something a little bit more solid from Williams. Then that, again, that's not to say that we know what we're going to get from Williams, because I do think that he is in line for maybe more of a bounce back now that he's kind of further removed from that nasty injury.
I've got another one that just popped into my mind. Now, this one is more maybe player related. I wouldn't be surprised if Chauncey Golston, who signed with the Giants, I doubt Dallas offered the money that the Giants offered, but you're looking at the situation for Golston now with the New York Giants. They have Brian Burns, who's going to be an every down player, Abdul Carter, who's going to be an every down player, and Kayvon Thibodeau, who's going to be the primary backup. At best, Chauncey Golston's the fourth defensive end there. Whereas if he stayed in Dallas, maybe he's just the starting defensive end opposite of Micah Parsons. And yes, Marshawn Nealand is going to be getting more snaps, but I wonder if this is a situation where maybe both the Cowboys and Golston are going to look back and think, maybe we should have stayed together for another year or two.
Maybe. My pushback on that would be, I had almost preferred that they not rule themselves out of drafting Izaraku, right? But
I think they're so different players that I think it would have been fine.
I think it would have been fine, but I also think that if they had kept him, what they probably would have done is started playing Golston more inside. And here's the other thing, too. If they kept Golston, are they still keeping Solomon Thomas? Because honestly, I like Golston more as a player overall, but I need a defensive tackle more than I need a
Solomon Thomas got like no money in free agency. So like I think you could have both.
Probably have both. If you're suggesting that they have both, I would be okay with it. I mean, but I don't know that they're going to live to regret it, because I do feel like the defensive end situation has the potential to be very, very good.
I agree. If Izaraku can turn into the player that we think he can be, Marshawn Nealand takes a step up, and then you get anything out of Sam Williams this year or Peyton Turner, that could be a really, really good unit. And it's already going to have a really high floor because you have Micah
Fowler and Parsons. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So two known quantities.
All right, let's get to more of your Twitter questions, including which player turning into an All-Pro would help the Cowboys the most this season. We will get to that next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Here's how it works. You post your job, and LinkedIn's new feature can help you get help you write your job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. It's no wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high quality hires. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We are answering your Twitter questions, and this next one comes from a longtime listener, Mike Crum. He wants to know, leaving out Mozzie Smith and Tyler Guyton, the last two first-round picks of the Cowboys before this year, which player becoming an All-Pro would do the most for the team?
Great question, Mike. Always good questions for Mike. Yeah, this is a fun exercise, right? To kind of figure out where the impact would be felt the most and where, because it's not even just like which position would be the best to have an All-Pro at, right? Because and first of all, let's rule out Dak Prescott, because obviously the answer is Dak Prescott, right?
If you get an MVP season from Dak Prescott, you're going to be fine, right?
You're going to do well. So, like, keeping him out, and then did we also? I'm sorry, did you say that we're excluding Mozzie and Tyler Guyton from this as well?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, this is a really interesting exercise because it's about impact, about positional value, but also about the individual players too. I think the name that I like your name that you countered with a lot as well, but I think the name that I first came up with when we were having this discussion pre-show was Jake Ferguson, right? If Jake Ferguson comes out and has an because again, I think the idea was in my head originally was becoming an All-Pro, right? Not somebody that's like CeeDee Lamb is All-Pro adjacent, right?
And I think he was there already 1 year, right?
Exactly.
It's not a stretch for. I'll give you an example. Tyler Smith has never been a first-team All-Pro, but he was a second-team All-Pro selection in 2023. That's not a big stretch for him to do that.
So for Jake Ferguson, who has, I think, made a Pro Bowl, but not any kind of even sniffing anywhere clear to the All-Pro team, if he were to have an All-Pro type year, it's almost just the implication, right? Like what's the implication of the fact that Ferguson made the Pro Bowl? Well, the offense absolutely exploded. Most likely, I would imagine CD is also an All-Pro or a Pro Bowler at least. Pickens probably got a whole bunch of yards as well, because if Ferguson got enough yardage and targets to become an All-Pro, that means that there's been a lot of attention diverted away from the middle of the field by the two guys on the outside. So I think that's one that you just kind of, it's not so much that himself, well, I do think that Dak likes to throw the tight end, but it's more just that the implication of what that would mean if Jake Ferguson was an All-Pro.
I got two, one on each side of the ball. Let's start with offense. If Cooper Beebe became a All-Pro center in year 2, and you're putting him next to Tyler Smith, who very well could be an All-Pro guard this year, and Tyler Booker, a guard that you drafted at 12, who you think can be an eventual All-Pro guard, now we're talking about having a legit interior offensive line that could just win you games by those three guys alone, right? Like having a Pro Bowl center. You look at the Pro Bowl centers or all pro centers across the league, they're never on bad teams, Landon. Like they're always on these really good offenses.
That's true.
That would be quite the stretch to do that. But again, your two centers, we see this all the time. Like this is when Travis Frederick turned into an awesome player. On defense, and this is more of a stretch, if Maris Leofau became a Pro Bowl linebacker and just became the guy that he's the green dot, he's calling the plays, he never comes off the field, he created a bunch of turnovers, he has 160 tackles, and he's just somebody that you feel awesome about in the middle of the field. You already have Micah, you already have Osa, you have Deron Bland, you hopefully are getting Trayvon Diggs back.
And then Overshown coming back next to him at some point, too.
Having an all-pro caliber linebacker on this defense would do wonders. And while I don't think that'll happen, I do want to say that Matt Eberflus has an amazing track record of getting the most out of these linebackers. And let's say it's not all pro. Let's say it's borderline Pro Bowl, or he's a top 12 PFF ranked linebacker. If that's the case, I feel awesome about this Cowboys defense.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a prediction right now. I don't know if it's Leofau, but one of these linebackers that's not overshown is going to pop a lot early in the season, because I just think you're right. Eberflus is just too good at developing these guys and pulling guys out of kind of relative obscurity. There are a lot of like balls of clay in that linebacker room that you feel like have the traits to, if, kind of given correct guidance, could take a step. Murray has a level of athleticism. I think,
Murray would be the funniest one if it happened, by the way.
Yeah. At this point of his career, right? Like,
not only that, but like, okay, he's had a very rough start to his career. Yeah. He has an all-pro season, and now he's a free agent, and the Cowboys don't know what to do at linebacker. Like, it would be kind of objectively hilarious if it happened.
Yeah, because honestly, he probably would have an all-pro year, and they probably wouldn't re-sign him because they've got so many other young linebackers that they still like, and you shouldn't pay a guy like that. Anyways, I love those. I just wanted to comment a little bit on the Cooper Beebe one, because I do think that there is something to that really should be tapped in, especially in this world where we're playing too high shell. Like, everything's being capped. You've got to find a way to run the ball efficiently in order to punish these teams. Think about our own division, right? With all the defensive tackles that we've got to face, twice a year with these teams. Having all pro like level play from all three interior guys, or Pro Bowl plus interior play from all three of these guys, will transform the efficiency of this offense. Not even just in the run game, but in the passing game as well, because you'll be forcing more teams to drop the safeties down, to react to the running game that's happening. Mm-hmm. And again, especially in this kind of scheme that we're kind of transitioning to, where you're going to be pulling the guards and centers a lot more. You're going to see those guys out on the move a little bit. They're going to have the opportunity to really have an effect on this offense that maybe they didn't even have last year. So absolutely great choice. And I do think that that's one that could really pay dividends if it happened.
And I look at, we've had this across the NFL where you have like multiple Pro Bowlers playing next to each other, whether it's like the Chiefs having Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey, or the Eagles when they had Jason Kelsey and Landon Dickerson, or the Cowboys when they had Travis Frederick and Zach Martin. When you have two Pro Bowl or all pro caliber offensive linemen playing next to each other, it just makes life so much easier for everybody on offense. Because if your tackles are struggling, you don't have to worry about helping those guys out in the middle. You can shift your protection, or you can run a lot of duo stuff, or whatever you want to do. Life is just so much easier when you have two guys that you can rely on, snap in and snap out.
Can I give us one more that's actually yours that you brought up with me, and I thought you were going to mention? Jourdan Blue. Right? Like, he comes in here.
Or any running back. Name your running back.
Frankly, name your running back. Like, if any one of these running backs comes in and has that kind of season behind this offensive line, which, listen, who knows? Like, there's been such a concerted effort to improve the run game. And, I think there's going to be an element of surprise there. There's a chance that this run game is way better than we all anticipate, just because of slight changes made all across the board in personnel and scheme and the running back personnel. If Jourdan Blue comes in here with that speed and just reacts really well to the changes that this offense, or frankly, Williams, right? Let's say Williams returns something close to what we saw from him as a rookie, right? Coming out of college. If you get that behind an improved offensive line, and he rushes for, I don't know, 1,900 yards or something, 1,800 yards, I think the fortunes of the Cowboys season look pretty decent.
Yeah, if the Cowboys can have a Pro Bowl running back after spending almost nothing at the running back position again this year, pretty good sign that the offense is going to be good, right?
For sure.
I think of the running backs, the most likely to do it is Jourdan Blue, because I think the path for him would be to do like what Alvin Kamara did as a rookie, where you're at 700, 800 yards rushing, but like 800 yards receiving, and you just score a bunch of touchdowns. That's how you get it done. It's a pretty fun one. Now I'm rooting for it. I was already rooting for it, but now I'm in. Later, let's talk about the one piece the Cowboys are missing to become a Super Bowl contender. We'll tell you what that is next. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show. As training camps get closer and moves are being made, host Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, last question here. It comes from Apostle of Anarchy. He wants to know, what is the one missing piece, whether it be through a trade or free agent signing, that can make this team a legit NFC contender?
Yeah, Apostle's another good follower who's asked some good questions over the years. You know, I think that to me, it's not like a specific position, I feel like. I think that if the Cowboys need one more player on the defensive side to pop. And honestly, it could be at any level, but you just need one of these guys that you're expecting to be good to be great, you know, or it just, I think that that's the difference, right? Is that right now I feel like if we're trying to take shape of what this team is going to look like, right? Okay, how about this? I will put a name to it. If Mozzie Smith comes out here and has taken a step, right? Sure. I think suddenly you feel so much better about your run defense and just your ability to kind of prevent bleeding on early downs, and think about what that falls into place, right? If you're able to stop to prevent guys from getting, 4, 5, 6 yards on first down, if you're able to, get into even like, let's say 3 or 4 more third down and long situations per game than you were in the middle of the worst part of it last year. Look at that defensive line room you've got, that defensive end room that you've got. You have got pass rushers for days. You could send waves of guys at these teams, but it's really pointless until you can get them into passing situations. But that's why I think if you're able to solve the early down run defense with being able to like have one more defensive tackle who could come in here and play at a higher level than you expect, it really will kind of allow some of these other things to all fall into place, because you've got cornerbacks who can take advantage of errant passes. You've got pass rushers who can create bad situations for quarterbacks. You just have to put these offenses in the situations where they have to throw the ball, and you can go after them, and then you're going to be in a pretty good spot.
I agree. That's the spot I was looking at. And I was trying to think of some names that would make sense, even with Mozzie. So, like a name, Grover Stewart, who played under Eberflus. He's with the Colts. Something like that, where it's just one of these really good run-stopping defensive tackles that gives you enough on passing downs that you don't feel like you have to take him off the field. If you had another one of those guys to pair with Mozzie and Oso Digizua and all those edge rushers, I would feel awesome about this front and their ability to create pressure, help cover up the linebackers. That is the one spot. It feels like they're a missing piece away. But the thing is, those guys are really hard to come by, and teams aren't giving them up via trade. And the ones that are available in free agency are either way past their prime and they're 37, 38 years old, like Linval Joseph, Calais Campbell, or they're the guys that are like 31, like Jonathan Hankins, who just give you nothing as a pass rusher. And those guys have problems sometimes with the athleticism and not being able to make plays against wide zone teams. So I think you're right. Like, that's the type of player. I'm hoping that Eberflus can develop that guy. To his credit, I remember Landon in 2016. I think you and I were starting to do a podcast for Blogging the Boys. We were talking about Terrell McClain and how big of a player Terrell McClain was for the Cowboys. He was this 305-pound one technique, but he's really the reason why the defense was able to hold up. If Eberflus can find somebody and develop him into even being that caliber of player, I think this defense can be way better than anybody anticipates.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just, and it feels like it's been that case for a while, is like if they could just get one more body that's competent, that could give you something that could help you on early downs, it allows the rest of this very talented defense to kind of show themselves a lot more. You have a lot of pieces in place that feel like they could still be unlocked even further if you could figure out a way to kind of prevent teams from destroying you on early downs and keeping you out of your best defenses.
We're hoping that Mozzie turns into that player, but I think there's room to have another one of these guys. So now that
Absolutely.
Mozzie doesn't have to play 45 snaps, you can rotate these guys. You can keep them fresh. You can play them together. Like if a team is trying to grind out the clock, maybe you just play both of those guys together and you're really stout up front. I don't know how aggressive the Cowboys are going to be trying to find that player, but man, it would be nice, Landon.
They're hard to find. I mean, that's the thing. I don't know if you saw the quote yesterday that came out from Anthony Weaver, I think, and he was talking about how with all these teams playing more of these shell defenses that we're talking about, in order to stop the run, they need more big bodies on these defensive lines to keep their very undersized linebackers who are, dropping into coverage, trying to get underneath hook zones. These guys are 220, 230, not 250, 260 anymore. Big bodies are back in the range in the NFL up front because you have to compensate for the safeties that are playing far back, for the undersized linebackers, and you still got to find a way to stop the run against teams like the Eagles that are going to murder you up front.
I did see one name that was suggested for Dallas. Pro Football Focus believes that DJ Reader could be released by the Lions after they drafted Tyreek Williams in round 1. He'll be 31 here in a couple weeks, but you need him for one season, and that would be like the perfect guy to pair with Mozzie for a year. Maybe
DJ Reader was my guy. DJ Reader was my guy pre-draft back in Clemson. I loved him. Thought he was one of the best, so I would kill for it. It'd be incredible.
Yep, sign up. All right, that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. We will have a show for you on Monday, on Memorial Day, so check that out. Check it out on YouTube. We've got the squad shows coming up all week long, episode coming out on Monday as well. Enjoy your extended weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday.